Hello! So you're probably in shock about the prior video being so succinct and short at 2 minutes. Showing a bit of my horror collection. So yes, I collect classic horror and some horror from 30s horror movies, some 80s, some 90s, bits in between there. I really wish they made a classic horror from the 50s of Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, because that would be tremendous. If Universal Studios would create the collectible dolls in the likeness of Abbott and Costello and of course Frankenstein and Dracula, that would be so amazing, but they haven't. But otherwise, yes, I collect classic horror from the 30s, some 80s, things like that. The Crow is from the 90s, Brandon Lee, so I love all that kind of stuff. Batman really isn't horror. But the black and white Batman action figures that I've collected and the Batman Who Laughs, that would definitely kind of be considered a little bit horror-ish. Naruto, that's an anime. Of course, that's not horror, but someone gifted me the action figure of, goodness, I can't believe I've went blank on it, but Sasuke's brother, I absolutely love him. He is my favorite character on Naruto. He's Sasuke's older brother who's of the Uchiha clan. And if I think of it, I'll write the name in the comments area of this video. But anyway, I'll probably Google it later. I always go blank when I'm on the spot and trying to think, because I'm an introvert and I process things better when I'm not talking. So if I have time to just write, I process things way better. But anyway, so that's why I'm always like, what is it called? What's it, the thing? So yeah. But anyway, yeah, I love classic horror. So my love started for horror as a kid. So when I was a kid, my dad would take me and my siblings to go see his parents. So my granddad and my gran. And they lived out west, and so when we would go and see them out west, they would have like the local channels on, and they didn't have cable because it's so expensive to live out west. And they had a swimming pool and citrus in their backyard, and it was just a really, really cute house, but expensive to live out there. So anyway, they always had the local channels on. So one was PBS all the time, which showed classic Doctor Who. So that's where my love for Doctor Who came from. And then another classic channel that always had classic horror movies on it. So Godzilla, black and white, old classic 1930s horror movies and things like that. And so I would be left alone in the living room to watch TV while my dad was in the kitchen talking to his parents and his siblings, so my aunt and uncles and things like that. And my cousin and my sister were closer in age, so they would be in my cousin's room playing Barbies and things like that. So I was in the living room by myself and playing with my dolls and just watching TV. And so that's where my love for horror started. And yeah, I love horror. I love 1980s horror, The Thing, Christine. There's so many great movies from the 80s. There's so many fantastic movies from the 30s, you know, the original 1930s, Frankenstein, The Mummy, just so many fantastic movies. And so I collect all that horror, those horror action figures. And so that's what the prior video is. I also collect, and I'm a nerd, I have Star Trek. So I have classic Star Trek from the 60s. I have, but not any Star Trek from Next Gen, even though I was raised on that. Like, that is my childhood. That was my fam. But yeah, just the classic Star Trek I collect, and I have William Shatner's autograph on one of my collectible dolls. It's in his likeness. And I also collect Doctor Who, of course, but all that stuff is packed away I only have the horror out, and I only have a bit of my horror out. So, and the reason why everything is packed away, or a lot of things are packed away, is because I thought I was going to move, and, you know, didn't work out. And anyway, signed another lease and stayed, because it's cheaper to stay than to move, especially with my current economic status. But anyway, keeping this cheery to talk about horror and things like that. But yeah, I love Doctor Who. Especially Doctor Who from 2006 through 2014 with Peter, starting with Christopher Eccleston and then Peter Capaldi. I love that era of Doctor Who. I do appreciate Jodie. She was a fantastic actor while she played the role, and now this breaks my heart. But Doctor Who is going to Disney, and they're Americanizing it. So there is one movie that was made, and it was very Americanized in the 90s, of Doctor Who with Paul Gann, which, I don't recommend meeting him at any convention, especially if you're a girl and if you're mildly attractive like me. So don't do it. I'm not going to go into it, but don't do it. So if you do, don't do a selfie. Just do an autograph. Just, you know, nothing where he can grab. Put it that way. So, but yeah, so that is the only Americanized version of Doctor Who that was in existence, and Paul Gann's part is appreciated. And Sylvester did do the transformation in the movie from his character. So he was the last actual Doctor of the 80s, Sylvester McCoy, sorry. And he was in the Lord of the Rings movies. He was, I forgot which thing he was, but he was like the Hobbit that was kind of gross. Not Hobbit, sorry, he was in a Hobbit. He was like Gandalf, so I guess magical witch, I don't know what you call Gandalf's character. And I'm doing the geek world a disservice right now by not knowing this stuff. I love Lord of the Rings. I don't follow the lore as much as some, but anyway, Sylvester McCoy did the transformation from his last Doctor role from the 8th Doctor to Paul Gann. So then Paul took the role for the movie. So you see that in the movie. So he's recognized as one of the Doctors. But yeah, they're moving Doctor Who to Disney Plus, and they're Americanizing it, which I think is a huge, huge mistake. I get that maybe they're trying to save the franchise, but I think, and really with the regenerations, I guess they could keep going and going and going with the regenerations, and, you know, have more actors play the role and yada yada. But I'm just really sad that it's going to be Americanized, and I'm really sad the direction it's going, and I don't know. Good luck, Disney Plus. You know, I like Loki, but it's just so fast and rushed, and you could tell that about the storylines, so it's kind of not that good. It's kind of disappointing watching most of the shows that they've put on Disney. So, but I am excited about Daredevil, Charlie Cox. I fell in love with that role, that actor, and the Daredevil on Netflix. So it started there, and it was a good quality show. They put good quality writing, good quality everything into those shows on Netflix. So I liked Jessica Jones. I thought she did a fantastic job. I loved when David Tennant played the villain. I was like creeped out by him big time, but I was at the same time going, you can whisper it to me. You can tell me those things. But then I caught Stardust recently, this movie called Stardust that has Michelle Pfeiffer and a lot of stars in it, and including Henry Cavill. And I thought, oh, okay, Charlie Cox is in this. And so I was watching it because I love him from Daredevil. from the Netflix show. And then I was watching and I was like, wow, Charlie does a really amazing British accent. And I was like, I'm going to Google him. I bet he's from Iowa or something. I don't know why I thought that. So I Google him, and of course he's from England. So no wonder he does a great British accent. He's English. So, but he does actually such a fantastic American accent. I really thought he was American, and I thought, he was probably, from a state like Iowa. And I don't know why I even thought Iowa, but I definitely didn't think he was from the South. I didn't think he was from the Northeast. I thought maybe possibly Midwest, maybe possibly California, but for some reason my brain said Iowa. But Charlie Cox is definitely not from Iowa. He's from England. Very British. So apparently he's buddies with a lot of the young and up and coming mid-30s British guys. So whatever. But I'm excited for him. So I already talked in the other geeky video I did about things that are coming back that I'm excited about, like Henry Cavill reprising his role as Superman. So HBO Max was owned by Warner Brothers. And while owned by Warner Brothers bought out the Disney stream. So there used to be a Disney Plus, not Disney Plus, sorry, DC. So DC as in the comic brand. So DC had their own stream service, DC Plus. And so, or maybe it was just DC. I'm trying to remember. I used to watch it, and yeah, I had it. I loved the stream. There was Doom Patrol, the Titans. There was original animation. There was a lot of classic animation on there from all the DC related movies and cartoons and animation, and it was fantastic. So Warner Brothers bought that, and so one of the hubs on HBO or HBO Max is DC. So all DC related things are there because of that. So while Warner Brothers owned that, they refused to let Henry Cavill reprise his role as Superman, with the exception of those couple bits of movies, like, the Dawn of Justice and then the Justice League movie, and that was it. So he never got to do his actual sequel for Superman, and that's a shame because he really did a deep dive into that character and was reading comics and was into the role, transformed his body. He went all out on that role. I really feel like whoever the next writer is, hopefully will not be Zack Snyder. He's not good at doing deep writing. He's just really good at superficial stuff. Same with Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon is superficial. There is nothing of depth in Joss Whedon at all. Joss Whedon is just, he's all about appearances and wanting to look like a feminist, and he's just an idiot. He really is. I don't respect Joss Whedon. His always constant have to have a quirky joke in everything is annoying. It really is. So I really hope that with Discovery taking over, and they bought out HBO Max, which makes me sad. So they took it over from Warner Brothers, and I think a lot of things are going to suffer as a result. But the one thing that's a good plus for us is Henry Cavill gets to play Superman again. So thank you, Discovery, for taking over, because Warner Brothers was being a jerk, and I don't even understand why, because Henry is, he really is, he's a good, I think he's an ENFP personality type. ENFPs really know how to be, they're genuine, but they know how to play the game and smooth things over. Like Chris Pratt, he did that for whatever that director's name was, Gunn, who was in like all this turmoil on Twitter because he like made these really inappropriate jokes about boys that was kind of pedo level. And so for a while Marvel's like, well, we can't have this Gunn guy, James Gunn or Jeff Gunn, one of those two, James Gunn I think it is, they didn't want James Gunn making any more movies or directing any more associated with them. So basically Chris Pratt wrote a letter and got the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy actors to go in with him and he wrote a really good letter to appeal the case for James Gunn to return to direct and write for Guardians of the Galaxy. So his letter, if you look at that online open request letter to appeal to Marvel to let James Gunn return to write and direct for the last, Guardians of the Galaxy movie and to continue in his job, Chris Pratt is very smooth talker, very good at negotiating and smoothing things out. And that's why he's lovable. Everybody loves him and he's adorable. And Henry Cavill is very similar. And he doesn't piss off anybody. He knows the right things to say at all the press junkets. And he's just a lovely guy. And he's a bit genuine and shows himself a little bit on his Instagram. He's very cautious and careful because he's obviously probably been stalked, and he's obviously had his words probably taken out of context, and so he's very cautious and careful what he posts. Chris Pratt sort of is. Sometimes he says, I can tell he has an F it attitude. And posts whatever he wants and doesn't care who judges or thinks. So I love that about Chris Pratt. But Henry's British, and so with being British, English men tend to be private in general anyway. So the fact that he's opened up as much as he has is big for a British man. And then, he's an ENFP, and ENFPs, they're very open to a point too in showing you who they are and what they like and stuff like that. So anyway, I really feel like it was a disservice to Henry to not showcase his personality in the role and let him be, not just a serious actor, but a little bit, quirky and silly, because he's definitely got that in his personality. But I'm hoping with the sequel to Superman, I really hope that they'll take some cues from the original 70s Superman with Christopher Reeve, because they didn't just go into action and using all the special effects and muscles and things. They actually, and Superman 1 and 2 both did this. They looked at the Clark Kent aspect and really molded that character on top of the Superman character. So you didn't just have muscle guy saving the world and all the special effects. You had Superman, but you also had Clark Kent, which is a good balance because that's a dual role. And the same with Batman. That's why the Dark Knight trilogy is as good as it is because they didn't just go into Batman. They went into his alter ego, which is, being rich. Him as, who he really is, which he didn't want. To me, though, Batman is more of an INTJ character. He's very good at investigating and solving crimes because he's very analytical. He observes from afar. He's an introvert. He is kind of he does his own thing. So I really feel like that's why the trilogy they really did do a good job, because they did the first movie, which did a deep dive into the childhood of Bruce Wayne, and then him as an adult as Bruce Wayne, and then the fact that he has to be both Bruce Wayne to show appearances as well as Batman. Even though he doesn't want to be Bruce Wayne, he still has to have that legacy going for his family, and Alfred is the one to help balance him. I do love the Batman with the new actor for that one too, whatever his name is, that did the Twilight movies. I love him. I think he seems like a really sweet, genuine guy. He talked about that one time he got tired of this stalker that was always out in front of his house, and so he invited her to a dinner date, and he was open and honest and told her about his problems, and she never wanted to talk to him again after that, which broke my heart. I'm like, oh my God, I would hug you And I would probably be your best friend in the world, you know, if you had opened up to me like that. Of course, I'm not a stalker, so you're not going to ever find me on the radar and find me in front of your house. I don't even know where he lives. I don't know if that guy lives in California, or I'm assuming he must live in England still, but I guess he comes to California for movies and different things. I don't know. But that was really heartbreaking, and he laughed about it. But you could tell that really actually hurts, you know. Poor guy. But I thought he did a fantastic role, you know, job as the Batman for that movie, The Batman. You know, I went and saw it as soon as it came out. I saw it and loved it. And I thought, I loved that the writer-director that took over that, Matt, whatever his name is. I don't memorize all the directors, but I thought Matt Reeves, I think is his name. But I thought he did a great job showing that Batman is a detective and showed that he actually solves cases. He's not just there to bust a bad guy at the last minute. I mean, the 80s and 90s movies really did Batman a disjustice by just showing him his action and, you know, fighting against the Joker and making it just basically kind of a continuation of the 1960s bubblegumish movie, you know, or show. I mean, to me, it really was no different, you know. I think that the Dark Knight trilogy helped to make Batman more serious, and for you to see all the depth that went into his character with both Bruce Wayne as his alter ego, as well as him as Batman, and showing all the stuff that you didn't know that was going on, you know, with Batman coming up with all the technology that he had, and Bruce Wayne Enterprises, and no wonder he's got his hands on the technology and help with all the stuff he had. So that was brilliant. Christopher Nolan did a brilliant job on that. I love that he did that. And I think he had his hand in the first Superman movie with Henry Cavill. So I'm hoping that he helps to write or shape the next Superman movie. I hope he has his hands in it in some way to give it some depth and showcase Clark Kent and not just all action, CGI, muscle, muscle, muscle. I hope that we get to see some Clark Kent, you know, to give it depth and to make it different too. But anyway, that actor that played Edward in Twilight, I wish I can remember his name. I think he's an attractive guy. I just don't remember his name. But anyway, he did a fantastic job as the Batman. I really liked it. I liked that he was playing a younger version of Bruce Wayne and showing the struggle of just not wanting to fake being Bruce Wayne and just wanting just to solve crimes, and, you know, the depth of trying to figure out crimes and being an investigator. And, you know, that's what Batman is. He's a private investigator when you really think about it. He's kind of like Jessica Jones, and he solves crimes by investigating them. And, you know, he doesn't just have gadgets, and he's not just rich, and he's not just a vigilante. He's actually investigating these crimes and solving them. So I think that's brilliant that they did that with the role of Batman, and it made it stand out on its own as a special part of the Batman universe. You know, you think of all the different actors that have played Batman, and I love the Batman trilogy. That is my favorite. It really is. But a top second is definitely the Batman, because showcasing that he's an investigator and not just a vigilante really made that role pop and made it go, okay, this is brilliant, you know, gave it something different than all the other Batman movies. So by far, that's top second. That's really close to the Batman trilogy for me. But yeah, I look forward to Charlie Cox's return as a Daredevil. He is doing martial arts to beef up his skills, because he wants to do a lot of his own stunts, which, you know, bow down to that guy, because I've done martial arts and it's really, really, really hard. Henry Cavill, I think, has also done martial arts. I'm trying to think of who else has done martial arts. There's quite a few actors that are really hard into it. Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy is gorgeous, and he is really big time into martial arts, and he's gorgeous. He's a fantastic actor, and he was Bane in the Dark Knight trilogy, and he did a great job. Christopher Nolan was smart in how he worked the camera to make Tom Hardy look tall and big and menacing, because he's actually not that tall. So to make him appear like he's 6'4" when he's probably no more than 5'10", just brilliant. But yeah, I love Tom Hardy. But yeah, Charlie Cox really beefing up his skills, really wanting to bring everything he has to the table for his Daredevil role. I'm not sure if any of the other actors that were in the Netflix series are going to return, but I respect that Charlie Cox is putting everything into this role as he returns to play the Daredevil. Now I hope that Disney Plus doesn't screw him over and make it like the rest of the Disney Plus TV shows that are really quick and 6-episode things or 8-episode things that are just like, disconnected, and they don't really string together well, and you're just like, okay. Like Scarlet Witch, it was okay, but when you watch the first episode, you're like, wow, this is really good. And then, and I get that the pandemic happened, but it still doesn't give an excuse to become so disconnected in the writing style and just where it went. I mean, she put this whole town, she kidnapped and held this whole town hostage, and yet at the end she's still the good guy. I'm like, she's not the good guy. I like that Doctor Strange, it brought out the fact that she's a very dark character, and really was not an angel like the way they try to portray her on the Disney Plus show. I think that the fact that they are not acknowledging her as a X-Men and that her powers are mutant, I think that's really strange to do, but that's what Marvel and that's what Disney Plus chose to do. But I think that her character, if they revamp it and go back to the fact that she's a mutant, I think that can kind of help the character role more. Like if you see the original X-Men movies and look at all their mutant powers and how they came to be, you see their origins, especially with the first X-Men movie of the early 2000s. Just a fantastic job, of showing all that. And I wish that they would do a better job with Scarlet Witch, because that is a powerful character, and they really did her a disservice with how they wrote that role. And it's just so disconnected, and just 8 episodes and you're just left going, what the heck? The first episode strong, second episode pretty good, and then it's just like, what the heck is going on here? This is such crap. I mean, it's not complete crap, but there's worse things to watch, but it's crap in those standards. And same with Loki. Loki was rushed and just, 6 or whatever, 8 episodes. That actor is a really good actor. Tom is a great actor, and it's a shame that they rushed it as they did, because he totally put himself all in that role. He knows the lore of Loki. He is well acquainted. He spent half his life playing that role. He's been in that role for like over 10 years. So, in fact, he consulted with, I forgot what his name is. That one guy, not Luke, the other one, Owen Wilson. He brought basically a book of this is what Loki is, to give him like a little, this is who the Loki is, this is about the universe, and basically went over that with him so that, Owen would understand about Marvel and about the Marvel Universe, MCU, and about Loki and everything, and catch him up, because he knew that Owen hadn't watched any of the movies, any of the Marvel movies. So the fact that he understood it and cared that much to help that actor to understand the character and understand the background and the weight of it, that to me shows how much he cares. Really, he should, and he's a fantastic actor. He was on an independent, I think it was BBC, show called like the night person or whatever, about a hotel. And he did a fantastic job in that show. I mean, fantastic. He started out as like work in the lobby, and then he's like CIA type of stuff, and it's just it's a really good show, and you could tell that he's a really good actor, and he takes his role so seriously and really gets into that character in the background and wanting to understand it. And it's just, Disney did a disservice by making Loki the way it did. That the whole 6 or 8 episode thing is just kind of not, it's not the greatest. It's the best that they've produced when you watch the other shows that are on Disney Plus with the Marvel characters, like the Hawkman and what's his name, the hot guy that plays Chris Evans' friend, whatever his name is. That show is really crap. And then Hawkeye, I mean, his character is kind of lame. It's like, Marvel and DC, they have a lot of characters that are the same, and they just give it a different name. Like Hawkman is actually a hawk. Green Arrow is more of the equivalent of Hawkeye from Marvel, so DC's Arrow, Green Arrow's kind of the equivalent. And then same with Catwoman for DC, and then Marvel. And so Catwoman, she goes against the strongest DC character, which is Batman, and in the Marvel universe it's Spider-Man. So they stole from each other all the time in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Stan Lee stole a lot. He created some of his own things, and I like that he took a disability and made it a strength. Like, for example, he made Cyclops, who has visual impairment issues, he made that a strength. Professor X, he's in a wheelchair, he's basically paraplegic. He made that a strength, because his mind. So that, and then same with Daredevil. Daredevil, basically visually impaired, but his other senses are heightened, so he's a huge superhero. So he did stuff like that, and he made it a strength, and I appreciate that about Stan Lee. But at the same time, and he also did that with a lot of orphan characters. So orphans who started out with no family, and you see their character development, and then they become a hero. So he creates the character and the idea, and then someone else writes it, someone else colors it and draws it, but he creates the ideas. So Stan Lee is definitely creative and created a lot of great characters. His idea for the Hulk, though, green because of the print, it was originally supposed to be gray, which when you see the DC side, Grundy definitely stole from that. But so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of theft back and forth. So anyway, I could go on and on and on about horror and about DC, about Batman, about Marvel, Star Trek. I'm a dork. I'm a geek. So both of my parents love Star Trek. They loved sci-fi. Both of them love sci-fi. So that's where I get it. They didn't love horror though. So that's just me. I love horror. My sister doesn't love horror. I'm pretty much the only one that loves horror. But like I said, it started because I was a kid, and in my grandparents' living room, they had this long leather couch, and I would sit on the floor, and I would just bring my dolls on the couch, and I would just watch their TV, and I would play my dolls on the couch while watching Godzilla, and the classic Godzillas from the 50s and 60s, and the classic horror movies of the 30s, and Abbott Costello, and you know, things like that. So I love classic movies. I love classic horror. I love, you know, Doctor Who, and I love all things, you know, most things DC, most things Marvel. I'm a dork. Some Star Wars. I have a little bit, as you saw on my shelf with the horror thing. I have Chewbacca up there. And because there's nowhere else to put him, he's so tall, so I had to have him on the top shelf because, you know, he's tall. I wish that I could put Brandon Lee's likeness of the Crow up there because that thing is tall too, but you know, then he'd be away from the rest of the Crow collection, so I have it the way it is. But anyway, my Star Trek and Doctor Who stuff are all packed up, and the rest of my other things, like I have the likeness of Christopher Reeve's version of Superman and things like that. So I have a lot of stuff. I'm a dork. So God bless whatever guy comes in my path and wants to date me, because he'll have to put up with that. So instead of the curly, you know, pink, you know, stuff, I don't have that. I have horror stuff and geek stuff, and I do have some religious stuff too, so that's my decor. And you know, so yeah, like things like the Footprints of the Sand poem, I have that. I have some of the classic, I forgot the name of the artist, but some of the classic images of Jesus. I think he made them in the 70s and it's been reproduced, and I have that. And then I have like some of the newer art. It's really pretty, like with Jesus putting his hand in the water. Whatever artist decided to do that, brilliant, just brilliant. So I guess I'll open my Instagram back up and I'll post that picture so you can see what I'm talking about. But I open it and then I close it when I get hounded by a bunch of Nigerians. Nigerians will like a ton of my pictures and follow me. And I just get tired of them. So I close my Instagram because I get tired of being harassed by them. And then I open it back up. So it's been on off. I open it, I close it. I open it and I close it. So I'll probably open it back up so you can see what I'm talking about with the Jesus picture with him putting his hand in. I already have it in my picture, so you'll just have to scroll through and find it yourself. But anyway, thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your Halloween or whatever day and time that you decide to watch this. Thank you.